Hello everyone and welcome to the launch of the first Cyber Ireland Skills Report. The topic of cybersecurity skills is certainly of interest to many people, companies both large and small, education and training providers, government agencies, as we've almost 300 people registered for today's launch. So what we're going to do is present the key findings from our research, highlighting specific challenges in cybersecurity skills which are impacting organisations of all sizes across a range of sectors, including Indigenous and foreign-owned companies. We have developed a number of recommendations with industry consultation to address these identified challenges. You'll all have received a copy of the report and the accompanying infographic in the reminder email to the Zoom webinar if you want to check that. And it will also post a link to a blog post which has the report and infographic available for you to download also. As part of today's launch, we also want to highlight that there is already a number of initiatives and organisations addressing the cybersecurity skills shortage before this research was actually conducted. And we have a panel discussion to review the findings and recommendations of these solutions as well. I'm just going to share my screen now for the presentation. Okay. So hopefully everybody's able to see the presentation there. If you're not, you might let me know. So Cyber Ireland actually came about in response to an industry skills shortage in cybersecurity from meetings back in 2017. And so supporting cybersecurity talent and skills is one of our core objectives. We aim to do this through firstly understanding the current and future talent and skills needs of industry with this piece of research. And then following on from this, we aim to work with the education and training providers to align with industry needs. And then also, how can we attract more people into a career in cybersecurity, both adults and students alike? So our Talent and Skills Working Group, which is led by Carmel from Technology Ireland, ICT SkillNet, and the chair of the Cybersecurity Skills Initiative, who is on our panel today. And they've been doing a huge amount of work since we basically set up Cyber Ireland, which we're going to talk about the first initiative there, understanding current and future talent and skills needs today. I suppose, why is this important and what's the context of this piece of research? Internationally, there are several reports which look at a severe shortage of cybersecurity professionals with estimates of a global shortfall between 1.8 and 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals within the next few years. And these are, I suppose, headline grabbing figures. But I suppose the actual skills shortage is much more nuanced than that. And according to international research, organisations are experiencing skills shortages and are struggling with skills gaps already and access to talent. And this is impacting organisations of all sizes and sectors. Even the most well-resourced sectors and organisations are struggling to recruit the expertise they need. Furthermore, the technology sector in Ireland and internationally is male-dominated. So reports estimate that the percentage of women in the cybersecurity industry is now at 24%, which is a big increase on previous figures. However, that percentage is actually for women in the cybersecurity workforce in general, not just cybersecurity roles, which is believed to be smaller. So I suppose the challenge here is that there is actually limited data specific to cybersecurity for Ireland. And this provides a challenge for us in understanding the current skills landscape, the needs of industry, and where the challenges lie. And I suppose if we look across the water at the UK, in 2018 and 2020, the UK government carried out research to better understand the state of the UK cybersecurity skills labour market. And that piece of research forms part of the UK's government national cybersecurity strategy, which is investing almost €2 billion under that strategy, a large portion of that which is going towards talent and skills and is ensuring that the UK has a sustainable supply of homegrown cybersecurity professionals. So if Ireland aims to be a leading location for cybersecurity and talent in Europe, similar research is required to understand the Irish cybersecurity skills market, but also the similar level of investment in developing a sustainable supply of cybersecurity talent here. However, the current situation is far from all bad news, and Ireland certainly prides itself on its young, educated and diverse workforce. The cybersecurity industry in Ireland employs over 7,000 people, But actually, if we look outside of that, there's almost 30,000 professionals in Ireland that have cybersecurity related skills. And the top factor for companies in locating their cyber businesses in Ireland is access to specialised skills. There are a number of initiatives that are already addressing industry skills needs in cybersecurity, as I mentioned before, and we've outlined all of these in the report. There are a range of courses from entry level to postgraduate level delivered by education and training boards and higher education institutes nationwide. We've mapped over 150 courses that can lead to a cybersecurity career that's available on our website, including 16 master's courses in cybersecurity as well, which is very positive. However, the question exists, are all of these courses effectively addressing current and future skills needs of industry? Last year then in 2020, 14 new cybersecurity courses were funded by the government under the Human Capital Initiative Pillar 1 and Springboard to address industry skills needs. Furthermore, under the Human Capital Initiative Pillar 3, an innovative and collaborative project, Cyber Skills, received 8 million in funding to address the skills shortages in the cybersecurity sector. Back in October 2018, the Cybersecurity Skills Initiative was launched by Technology Ireland ICT SkillNet, which was a 3-year plan to deliver cybersecurity training to over 5,000 people. We also have the 2-year cybersecurity apprenticeship programme launched in 2019 in Cork and Dublin, delivered by FIT. And there's a number of conversion courses as well into cybersecurity for job seekers that have been launched recently, in particularly to address job seekers during the pandemic. So we have the CyberQuest initiative, which was launched in 2021, ITAG SkillNet's online cybersecurity conversion course that was run last year, and also ICT SkillNet's Future in Tech. Cyber Women Ireland supports women involved in all aspects of the Irish cybersecurity sector and community, who have regular meetups and various initiatives we're going to hear more about. And then with regards to career promotion, really nice initiative last year called the Lost Summer Bootcamp, which was a 4-week structured program for third level students that actually missed out on a cybersecurity internship because of the pandemic in 2020. So there's a huge amount of really great initiatives already out there. I suppose to ensure that Ireland's cybersecurity sector can grow and compete internationally and companies can protect their businesses and their customers, we need to be able to understand the cybersecurity labour market in Ireland and ensure that the existing initiatives effectively address those skill gaps that exist. And if Ireland wants to be a leader for cybersecurity talent, we need to be a leader in ensuring career opportunities and progression for women and people from all different backgrounds. So the first Cyber Ireland skills report aimed to understand where the current skills, the skills gaps and skills shortages across Cyber Ireland members, the effects of the cybersecurity skills shortages and skills gaps on companies, the skills needs organisations are finding challenging to meet through their training and recruitment, around gender diversity and inclusion programmes, and what are the necessary recommendations of government, academia and industry to address these skills gaps and shortages. So this survey provides better quality data, which isn't available at present across those 4 focus areas. A high-level overview of the research that was conducted. We looked at existing literature and reports on cybersecurity skills internationally, in particular the UK Cyber Labour Market Report. Then we conducted an industry survey, which was distributed during the summer of 2020 to Cyber Ireland members, targeted at the most senior person responsible for cybersecurity in that organisation. And once those survey findings were analysed, we ran a workshop then with industry respondents to further investigate specific challenges that came up in the analysis, and then look at developing the recommendations from that industry consultation as well. It's important, I suppose, to highlight the research gaps. This primary research is specific to Cyber Ireland members and focused on the cybersecurity cluster. So a larger study would be required to assess cybersecurity skills across all sectors of the economy. And due to the relatively small sample size, we haven't been able to break the findings down by organisation size or sector to perform a statistical analysis. So the results aren't sampled or weighted to be representative across the economy. And the research does not assess specific skill gaps for respondents, which would require a larger, more in-depth survey. Before I go into the results, I just want to thank a few people, in particular Carmel Summers, who has led this piece of research, and also the Cyber Ireland Talent and Skills Working Group for their input, as well as all of the responding companies, the workshop contributors, and the skills organisations we've been working with as well. So who were the respondents to this survey? We had over 80 respondents, all from industry, divided up between micro, small, medium and large organisations based on the number of employees that they have. The split was about 50-50 actually between multinational companies and Irish companies. And the majority of organisations are from the cybersecurity sector or cluster. Most organisations' cybersecurity resources are actually internal employees. Some companies had a mix between outsourced and internal employees, and then some of the respondents were cybersecurity vendors as well. I think starting off with some of the most positive findings from the results, internationally we know that cybersecurity is a major growth sector. The compound annual growth of the sector is something like over 12% per annum. With the impact, I suppose, of COVID-19, we've seen many of our member companies have grown in 2020, and there's strong growth plan for 2021, as we can see. So 62% of those organizations plan to hire for cybersecurity roles in 2021. Of those organizations that are hiring, 82% are going to hire technical staff, and half will hire new graduates. So this really bodes well for the growth of the cluster in Ireland, but we do need to ask questions of whether the Irish labour market has the skills available to meet this growth and to take advantage of those international opportunities as well. Looking at the workforce in Ireland, we found that the cybersecurity labour market is really highly qualified, and a high proportion of cybersecurity teams have either a general technical degree, a cybersecurity master's, or a doctorate even related to cybersecurity. So that was a really positive finding, I think. On to some of the challenges identified and the recommendations. The research has identified several indicators of a cybersecurity skills shortage in Ireland. So this is a lack of people available to work in cybersecurity roles. You can see there that half of the organization's security teams are understaffed or significantly understaffed. Half of companies have open or unfilled cybersecurity roles. 43% of cybersecurity hires are actually coming from outside of Ireland. And the length of time it takes to fill cybersecurity roles is also a challenge, with the most difficult roles being security engineer, security analyst, security consultant, security architect roles. So there's an immediate need there for organizations to increase recruitment and invest in their security teams, but this under-resourcing of cybersecurity teams is probably compounded by the skills shortage in the Irish labour market. So the recommendations that we've developed to address these skills shortages, we want to take a short, medium and long-term approach because there really is no one silver bullet to address this. Looking at the short term, we've suggested that organisations are encouraged to adopt remote working practices to increase staff retention and recruit internationally for technical skills shortages that maybe cannot be met in the local market. So the most successful initiative we actually found to increase staff retention in companies was improved flexibility and remote working. And then additionally, I suppose because of the impact of COVID-19, this has changed a lot of people's and organisations' perspectives around managing remote teams and recruiting new hires internationally. So if we can facilitate international remote working, that could improve retention rates of international staff and could provide cost benefits to companies as well. Looking at the medium term, we need to develop our own homegrown talent here to address these shortages. And there is a need to increase the number of course places available in specific skill shortage areas. Feedback from the workshop participants indicates that there's a need for short-term courses and to facilitate new and flexible learning pathways for industry. So using things like micro-credentials and online learning is going to be key. And this would allow professionals to upskill on the job, take modules or micro-credentials over a number of years. And the focus of these short courses has to be on effectively meeting current and future skills needs, not duplicating existing courses that are there. And then if we're looking at this longer term, we also need to grow the overall pool of cybersecurity professionals in Ireland. So initiatives are required to attract children, students and adults into cybersecurity careers. For adults, it means creating clear career pathways for people from different backgrounds and expertise, utilising possibly aptitude tests or assessments to ensure that candidates are suitable to cybersecurity roles was one of the pieces of feedback that we received from industry as well. And then attracting children and students into a career in cybersecurity requires greater career promotion and role models, and growing the overall number of students, I suppose, taking STEM career courses at third level. So something that would make a major immediate impact is investing in a national cyber range to provide cybersecurity training to education and secondary school students as well. So skill gaps were identified as a serious challenge impacting the industry. The majority of open or unfilled roles are in technical cybersecurity positions, and the lack of technical skills of candidates is a primary reason for open roles not being filled. However, organizations are already addressing some of these skills gaps. So 65% of companies have increased staff training internally. Almost 30% have increased their reliance on artificial intelligence or automation, and 25% have increased their reliance on certification. To address these skill gaps, we've recommended that a cybersecurity skills gap analysis is required to identify current and future skills gaps of industry and to ensure the continued growth of the sector. This research should include a training needs analysis of industry and could be done on a national basis, or it could be done regionally, possibly with the support of the regional skills forum managers. Looking at qualifications and certifications, we found that cybersecurity has a large range of accreditations. So here you can see the most common certifications in industry. We asked about 24 cybersecurity certifications that were presented in the survey, and respondents actually listed a further 19 certifications. So that really shows the fragmentation in the certification market. Another notable challenge that came up was for job seekers and organizations alike in the number of cybersecurity roles that are out there in industry. So we asked about 27 of the most common cyber roles, and respondents identified an additional 12 roles then as well. So that's almost 30 different cybersecurity roles that we've collected information on. And the feedback from workshop participants highlighted that there's actually a mismatch between companies, the salaries they are offering, and the skills they require. So organizations are advised that to move away from these job descriptions that are based on a long list of qualifications and certifications and skills, which actually may not be realistic. Our suggestion here to address this is looking at the development of a cybersecurity career framework for Europe to describe job roles, competencies, skills, and knowledge used by individuals, employers, and training providers in cybersecurity. So the European career framework or competency framework could build on existing work that's been done in the US, like the NIST career framework. And we'd encourage senior management and recruitment to utilize standardized job roles and the associated skills and qualifications relevant to the role for existing cybersecurity career frameworks that are there. Organizations are making a significant investment, we found, in addressing skills gaps through upskilling and training. So it was very positive to see that 93% of organizations are supporting training and certification. 72% have conducted an analysis of their cybersecurity skills needs already. Almost half have a formal cybersecurity training plan in place. However, one of the challenges we found was that about a third of organizations were dissatisfied or unsure of the effectiveness of their training program. Further feedback then from the workshops noted that there was a lack of understanding between human resources and learning and development teams around the specific requirements of the cybersecurity business. So this is contributing to the disconnect then between the training plans and the training that's being delivered and its effectiveness. Looking at the most in-demand training, we found that it's around cloud-enabled security, incident response. Interestingly, they're actually non-technically around soft skills and also then around regulatory compliance, which is in line with GDPR. So the recommendation here is that organizations would evaluate their internal training plans and the degree it is meeting the needs of the cybersecurity team and the broader organization, and that education is needed to align human resources and learning development teams and the cyber functions of the business. So new graduates from undergraduate and short-term conversion courses, in particular the likes of apprenticeship programs, we know play a vital role in addressing skills shortages and skills gaps, but it's only if these graduates are meeting the requirements of industry. When we looked at graduate salaries in cybersecurity roles, we found they're very attractive, almost a third of graduates are earning between 25 and 35k. A further third are earning between 35 and 45k. And we actually saw some roles with graduate salaries of up to 75k, which we imagine are for specific technical skills needs. And I'm thinking myself, I should have gone back and done computer science and specialised in cybersecurity. But there may be also a challenge around the skills of graduates. We found that over a quarter of organisations believe that graduates are less qualified than expected, and 5% of those are poorly qualified. So not overly worrying, but there may be something there that will require further investigation. And I suppose looking at the apprenticeship programs, we know that the apprenticeship scheme has been utilised in the UK to address technical skills shortage for a number of years and has been quite successful for cybersecurity. And there is broad agreement from industry that a place exists for apprenticeships, short-term or conversion courses. However, we found that about 17% of the organisations had a staff member with cybersecurity from a cybersecurity apprenticeship. So there is an opportunity here, we believe, to increase the adoption of cybersecurity apprenticeship program to address the skills shortages. And we may need to also assess if there's any challenges there for industry in taking on apprenticeships. Furthermore, a healthy labour market provides opportunities for graduates at entry-level roles and then career progression roles as well. I suppose it was very positive to see that of the companies hiring in 2021, 50% of them expect to hire graduates into cybersecurity roles, mainly in the large companies and the multinationals. So I suppose we need to look at how can we support SMEs maybe in hiring of graduates as well and meeting their needs. And I suppose with a very large number of courses that provide graduates for cybersecurity roles, we need to assess, are there enough actually entry-level roles available for all the graduates coming out of these courses as well? And that question just exists there, whether graduates are exposed to the right industry skills needs in their courses and what skills they may be lacking for these entry-level roles. So maybe further investigation is needed there. And then finally, we looked at gender diversity. So the cybersecurity sector in Ireland, we found, to no surprise, is male dominated, similar to, I suppose, the ICT sector in general and also internationally. But we did find that organisations are experiencing some difficulties in retaining women. So 27% of respondents have difficulty in retaining women in their cybersecurity teams. 30% of turnover was found to be due to family situation changes. So things like children and marriage, which are going to impact women more often than men. And what's, I suppose, a positive thing to see is that the majority of organisations surveyed do have a gender diversity programme in place to support women. However, there is still room for improvement, with 43% of organisations didn't have a diversity programme or weren't aware that such a programme existed. So I suppose looking at, around gender diversity, what we'd like to do is support the attraction and the retention and advancement of women in cybersecurity, possibly through a diversity survey, which would be able to assess equity, inclusion and diversity in the cybersecurity workforce in Ireland. Further work is needed to identify if there's specific challenges for women in cybersecurity in Ireland and to investigate the effectiveness of these gender diversity programs and also share best practices around companies. We also had a very good suggestion around a diversity toolkit, which could provide concrete tools, tips, recommendations for companies and individuals to be able to apply to the recruitment and hiring and retaining of women in the cybersecurity sector. So I suppose that's the conclusion to the key findings and recommendations of our report. This survey really is a starting point to benchmark the cybersecurity skills landscape in Ireland and in particular the cybersecurity cluster. I think it's clear that further investigation is needed across a number of areas, from skills and skills gaps to the number of cybersecurity roles and the competencies, to graduates and diversity in the sector. And we'd also recommend that a larger biannual survey, so every 2 years, is required, and that this would need to expand to include companies outside of the cybersecurity cluster to give a full picture of the cybersecurity needs of organisations across all sectors of the economy. And that this survey should be conducted by a suitable national organisation and funded appropriately also. So to discuss the key findings and recommendations, what we're going to do now is be joined by a panel discussion. So we have three leaders addressing cybersecurity skills in Ireland. First up, we have Carmel Summers, who's Human Capital Strategist for Technology Ireland, ICT SkillNet. She's a board member of Cyber Ireland and chairs the Cybersecurity Skills Initiative. We have Donna O'Shea, Chair of Cybersecurity in Munster Technological University, who is a co-principal investigator at the SFI Confirm Centre and funded investigator at Connect and Enable. And we have Rosie Coffey, who's Head of Enterprise Architecture and Security in University Limerick and a committee member of Cyber Women Ireland. So welcome everyone to today's panel. Delighted that you can join us. And a special thank you to Carmel, obviously, who's been involved in developing and running this survey for the last 12 months as well. So I'm going to start off with a nice, easy question for you all. I'm going to ask the same question just to tee things up. Carmel, I might start with you because you've been involved with the survey more so than the others. Looking, I suppose, at the results and from your own experience, what do you see as being the biggest challenge for cybersecurity skills in Ireland?
Thanks, Owen. Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of challenges in there, and I suppose that probably the most startling one, and you've obviously touched on it this morning for me, is that the shortages that are out there appear to be across the board. So we're not going to see just one silver bullet, as you've said, rectify the scenario. I mean, we're seeing that the skill shortages are in the area of engineers and specialists, analysts, right through to architects and consultants. So, and I see my background is upside down, actually. Didn't realize I had that there. And when we look at this survey, and it's a first out survey across Ireland, and every company out there today is actually a technology company. So whether you're in banking or you're in insurance, I think we're going to see that the issues that we're seeing are actually probably magnified when we actually move out into, across other industry sectors. And then I think the fact that you could probably take from this survey, and certainly from the discussions we had with a number of organizations who participated in the discussions after the survey, that the issues are both at entry level and they're at people who have in terms of looking for architects and in terms of looking for consultants, that there are gaps there in terms of being able to find people who are suitably qualified to take up those roles. And one of the things that, from our point of view in Technology Ireland ICT SkillNet, and I mean, in addressing the issues from industry, we built a master's program, which is heavily subscribed to every year, and it's been in place since 2018. But I think a lot of the participants on it are participants who are in the sector, and they look to do that program to sort of further their career in a lot of cases in the organizations that they're in. So clearly there's a big gap out there that we're probably not attracting enough people across the board to look at, who are, say, within the technology sector, to look at roles in cyber, because there clearly is a need for people at the higher level as well. So that's, I suppose, is kind of interesting to me. The other, I think, is more nuanced, and it is around whether these other roles of engineer and analyst, etc., are actually what level they're at. Are they entry level? Are they mid-level? And I suppose from, I mentor some people who in this space who are looking for roles, and quite often what I'm seeing is that those what look like entry level roles are actually looking for people with 2 years experience. And if you've just come out of college with an undergraduate, or maybe you even progressed on and did a master's, you don't have that. And then, throw the certification into the mix. So I think there are some significant challenges there, and I'll probably stop at that and just let some of the other panelists probably have some thoughts on it. But yeah, I think that the shortages in particular, I think are kind of across the board, and I think that they're going to take a lot of thought and a lot of engagement with industry, academia, and organisations like ourselves in Cyber Ireland to address the challenges there.
That's great, Carmel. Thanks very much. As you said, it is so broad. It can be a challenge in itself, understanding it at times. I suppose you mentioned the Masters in Cybersecurity there through Cybersecurity Skills Initiative and the ICT SkillNet. Is there anything else that you'd like to kind of highlight that CSI and ICT SkillNet is doing to address the skills gaps and skills shortages?
Yes, so I suppose, in fairness, we have a range of programs. As of last year, we put in place the Cisco Networking Academy, which is actually free to any user to go to our website, and they can take, there's I think about 45 hours of cyber training there. It's a great way to maybe bridge some of those gaps around micro-credentials. Also, I think a really good way for somebody who's thinking about cyber and not sure whether they're suited to it. It's a way of going in there and, taking on that. If you engage with it, if you like it, maybe that's the area that you need to go in. And certainly for people who are in the space, it allows them to continue to grow their skills. As I said, we're very much industry driven, so we really respond to organizations who have people in employment and want to, transfer skills or upskill. But last year we also put in place the Future in Tech program, which you've mentioned, and on that program, it's a year-long program. There is a cybersecurity analyst program, which actually will qualify people after 12 months with certifications in 2 areas, and also they are being mentored by industry, and they will do an industry related project. They're going to come out with a number of soft skills are embedded in that program around communications and teamwork, etc. So, and that is aimed at people who were primarily displaced by COVID. So we have people from across the board in Ireland who, ended up out of a job as a result of COVID and are now upskilling, and they went through an assessment to get onto the program. So we will have really good graduates coming out of that program at the end of the year. So again, that's another way that we're actually looking at what can we do to assist both those who are unemployed, but also listening to industry. And I mean, the Cybersecurity Skills Initiative has an advisory board, which really helps us to determine where we're going and what we're doing. And I would also point out that most of our master's programs, and I think with 12 or 13 of them, because they're all in the tech space, they all have an element of cybersecurity embedded in them. And I think would be the same for most tech programs. So I think there are pathways for people to get into the space, but I think we have to look at what, the jobs that are out there. Are we really providing what industry needs? And I think that is the big question across the board with that.
I think that there's some very important points you've made there, Carmel, around the importance of those conversion courses, but also making sure we're attracting the right type of people into those conversion courses that have the specific type of competencies that will make them suitable to a career in cybersecurity as well. Donna, I'm going to come to you next and start with that general question, I suppose, from your experience and the results. What do you think are the biggest challenges for cybersecurity skills?
Yeah, I guess I just want to compliment Cyber Ireland and the Talent and Skills Working Group for the report and presentation today. It certainly supports everything that we're seeing on the ground with companies and learners. I guess to answer your question, Owen, it's my view that skill shortages exist in cybersecurity, not because of lack of progress made by different individual institutions. And as you can hear from Carmel, there are a significant number of initiatives already out there, but rather the approach that we're actually taking in terms of the traditional program design delivery mechanism. It's very siloed across individual HEIs. And this has often led to a very delayed and fragmented and reduced impact response to national cybersecurity skills needs. And if I have the opportunity, I'd like to talk briefly about the Cyber Skills project that I lead nationally that aims to address this specific challenge by developing a very, very innovative methodology. And this project is going to be coordinated across 4 different higher education institutes in Ireland: MTU, TU Dublin, UCD and UL. And we're going to really rapidly develop and deploy enterprise-focused education and training to address national and regional skills needs in a really fast-changing technological environment. And I guess the question is, how are we going to be different, to whatever is out there? Well, first of all, we've been given a significant amount of funding. We've been given 8.1 million from the Higher Education Authority under the Human Capital Initiative programme. And I guess our goal is to create innovative, enterprise focus, research informed cybersecurity programs through meaningful collaborations with enterprise research entities and as well leveraging national and international partnerships. And I guess a key partner in this project is that we also have the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative from Virginia Tech, who've also been leading out in similar initiatives, but have been doing it over a longer period of time. And we're going to empower learners to design their own courses and take their own pathways. And we're going to provide a very, very straightforward articulation and progression route with clear mappings to NFQ levels. And again, you know, you may ask, how are we different? And we're different because our program design will involve 3 components. First of all, we'll have a cyber range, the first one ever in the country. We're going to have a modular program design process, leveraging the NIST framework, and we're going to do this in a very flexible mode of delivery. We're currently in the process of procuring for the cyber range, and this will enable doing and performing. And in case you're not aware what a cyber range is, it's basically like a driving range for golfers. You hit a real ball with a real club and you see how you do. And our cyber range is going to be used for the training, but also can be used for competency assessment for employers actually wanting to actually assess the competency skills of incoming employees. And so we're going to focus on hands-on participation. We're going to focus on keep lessons modular. We're going to be interactive. We're not going to focus on content. We're going to focus on comprehension. We're going to teach new concepts with examples, deliver, you know, using a mixture of synchronous and asynchronous blended learning. And our cyber range is going to maximize knowledge retention as part of this process. And we're inviting companies now to engage with us, to participate on this pilot program that we're committed to starting in September 2021. We are very, very busy at the moment, but we want to identify some key industry partners with a real specific skills need that they want to scale up, potentially have hundreds or thousands of learners, you know, and they want to work with us in developing this content, reinforcing it using experiential learning through our cyber range, using flexible modes of delivery. And I guess really what I would say is that I would invite companies to reach out and tell us what they need. I know this report is a great benchmark as well and will act as a feed into our process. But certainly we're looking for a few brave companies to come on board and say, we want to work with you in the pilot program and create world-class education in the area of cybersecurity skills and training. And that's what my goal is here.
It sounds really exciting, Donna, and I think the great thing about it is that it's collaborative. You know, it's across a number of different higher education institutes in Ireland. You can see that I think the program and the project is probably going to compare internationally. So it's nice to see those international connections as well. Because if we want to address this challenge in Ireland and really, I suppose, grow the cybersecurity cluster, we need to be judging and competing against international talent shortages as well and how we're solving that problem. I think like one of the important points you mentioned there was around that it's going to be meeting industry skills needs. And I just don't know, could you go into a bit more detail of how is this going to ensure that we're not just duplicating the courses that are already out there, and how is it specifically going to meet industry needs both now and in the future?
Yeah, so at the moment, a lot of the courses out there focus on broad you know, skills in cybersecurity. We're going to focus on specialized skills. So let's just say you want, I'm just picking a company here and I shouldn't be actually saying the company, but let's just say you're Jaguar Land Rover and you need, you know, a very specialized program on software security for autonomous vehicles. Then come to us, we will create a unique pathway, aligned to a job role using the NIST framework as a basis for our example. And we work with you in developing a set of modules at various levels appropriate to addressing your skills need. If you look at the area of IoT security, we will work with companies and we will develop a suite of modules that will address their very specific skills and training needs in IoT security. This is not focused on broad specialization because most of the courses across Ireland focus on broad specialization skills. We're focused on very targeted, very specialized skills training needs that can be scaled both regionally, nationally, but also can be developed internationally. And I think the focus here as well for us is that, you know, we have a huge number of multinational companies in Ireland, and cyber skills could be used as a training mechanism for their worldwide company operations, not just localized within Ireland. And that's our goal here, you know, to complement rather than to you know, fragment the whole process even further. And that's how we're going to be different.
Okay, so you're saying there's a big opportunity here as well to actually grow the sector because of cyber skills and the more specialized courses that are going to be addressing those industry skills, and as well in particular for foreign direct investment and multinational companies.
And I think the key here thing is that it's flexibility, you know, and if you're actually participating in a program at the moment, you have to take the entire program in order to get the award. With cyber skills, you can come in and say, I just want to take one module, or I just want to upskill on software security, or I just want to upskill on autonomous vehicle software security, or I just want to do network security or network forensics. In the current market, you would have to take a suite of modules to get an award. With cyber skills, you can say, I just want one, I want to take 3, actually I want 5, you know, and the more you take, that can build up to an award. So it's the whole flexibility as well, you know, being able to design pathways and for learners to actually take their own pathways. And again, this is a project. So our pilot is in September. The project is going to last over 4 years. But at the end of the 4 years, what we want to see is a very complementary approach to the existing higher education institutes, a real collaborative approach as well, where academic institutions are working together to address national scale urgent skills needs. And it's only through collaboration that we're really going to get ahead of this problem. And that's our goal here.
That's great. Thanks, Donna. Rosie, I'm going to come to you next. If you could give us your opinions and experience, and I suppose looking at some of those results from the survey as well.
Yeah, so I suppose the data is welcome, and but there are some concerning stats in relation to female diversity within the cyber field. So I think it's highlighting the need for organisations to act and to challenge behaviours in relation to recruitment and retention of females in cyber. So I suppose in relation to the skills shortage, there's 2 key challenges. I suppose it's turnover and retention is a problem, and then there's the male dominant side of it. So the data that this report has highlighted, so 30% highlight family situation changes as primary reason for staff turnover. So that, it's most likely females having children and changing career, and then 27% say that retention is an issue for females in particular, and we need to maybe explore more why is that. And then the other side of it is male dominance in the cyber field. I thought that was interesting. So I suppose this is reflective of the cyber field is typically a highly technical role, and 25% of the cyber teams are male only, and 42% of cyber teams are male dominated. So if you link that back to the retention concerns from female, we probably need to dig a bit deeper in terms of understanding, why and why is retention of females a problem in this field, and is it due to inclusion and in the environment and the fit, and it's welcome that maybe almost half have diversity programs in place, but I suppose part of the work that we're doing in Cyber Women Ireland is, which we're, firstly, I suppose, who we are, we're a network of women who are dedicated to the advancement of cyber and women in cyber, and there's lots of initiatives that we're looking at around engaging and supporting women in cyber, and we want to target organisations and females on the ground with tangible things that can be done to try and address some of this. And I think, Owen, like one of the things is around the data. So we want to, run our own survey and target, specifically females in Cyber Ireland, and get under the hood a bit more and a deeper understanding of why. And we have a lot of resources that we're working on under the umbrella of a diversity toolkit, which we're providing guidance and around recruitment and retention. And we're looking at, I think it's called the Cyber Event Pledge. So we've all been to events where cyber events are, there's lots of, we call them manels. So very little female representation. And we're asking for organisations to sign up to this pledge, and you can display your support for females, but then you're also committing to trying to, like, there's lots of tangible things in there, and trying to getting female representation on panels and making female voices visible, and I suppose creating that role model for females, so that they're seen and they're visible, and that all leads to the attraction of getting into this field.
That's great. I think they're really interesting initiatives, Rosie. Even the one around the Cyber Pledge, we'd be very interested in that, and maybe sharing that with the Cyber Ireland members as well, that they could sign up to it.
Yeah.
Even for ourselves in Cyber Ireland, I suppose the cluster board, we set a target when we set it up that a minimum of 30% of the board would be made up of women, which we have achieved. And the next target is in 2 years' time, we're going to look at 50% of the board is made up of women as well. I suppose we're talking about diversity and women in the cybersecurity sector, but even just to take it up a level, why is diversity so important for the cybersecurity sector in Ireland?
I think that's a really important question, actually, because I mean, everyone will agree that it's important to do the right thing, but there's a danger of it being a nod to compliance and a nod to equality, but there are actually real benefits to having diverse teams, and different perspectives lead to richer outcomes. So the ultimate aim, for anybody with a career in cyber is to stop the bad guys getting in, and you need a diverse, approach to problem solving. So there's lots of studies that show that diverse teams can solve problems faster than teams of cognitively similar people. So I suppose the absence of women and diversity in teams this contributes to the lack of, potential quality within these teams. And I suppose with this, it's also about, the visibility and the lack of diversity within teams, which is really needed to attract talent. And that's important for the cyber industry in Ireland, which really needs its dynamic workforce to have that creative and diverse way of thinking to stay ahead and, be that leader for cyber within Europe. And I think, it does also affect the bottom line, like gender diverse companies are, I believe, 15% more likely to outperform their peers, and ethnically diverse companies will outperform peers by 40%. So I suppose that, the message is that companies thrive when there's a diverse pool and different thoughts within the team. I suppose leading on to that, we have just recently, like today, launched or published a blog around under our Cyber Women Ireland Diversity Toolkit, and it's 5 ways to write diversity, inclusive and gender neutral job descriptions. And I suppose it's interesting. Like females, like males will go for a job if they meet 60% of the criteria, whereas females might apply if they meet 100% of the criteria. So there are guidelines out there that we're trying to provide these tools to help people write job descriptions that are maybe less intimidating to females and other people, and how to have a gender specific language, to avoid a gender specific language and demonstrate a language that's inclusive, and them type of kind of tangible things on. So yeah,
I think that's really interesting. If anybody has the link to that blog post on the diversity toolkit, they might share it, or actually I see Anna's shared it there in the chat if anybody wants to have a look at it. And I think it's interesting what you're saying there about men and women applying for roles. So it's clear that men are overconfident in their abilities when they're applying for roles.
Yeah.
We've a huge amount of questions coming in. I can see them here in the Q&A and the chat. So I'm going to try to go through as many as possible in the next 10 minutes. Carmel, the first one is for you from Dave Feenan, and it has to do with the training that's coming through that I suppose people or organizations are actually undertaking that internal training, and that 1/3 appear to be dissatisfied with that internal training. So the question is, are there other ways that a company could look at upskilling all their staff or addressing those internal training needs?
I think there's quite a few ways. I suppose micro-credentials are becoming really important. And I think that there are lots of different, programs. I mentioned the Cisco Networking Academy already. And actually another thing that we're doing, which organizations have found very useful, is Capture the Flags, which we ran last year with Cyber Ireland. We ran public ones, which people could sign up to. But from an organizational perspective, given that cybersecurity is something that every organization needs to repeat on pretty much on an annual basis, Capture the Flags are a great way to. It's kind of this one size fits all, because the challenges within it are actually geared at non-technical as well as technical people in the organization. So it's a great way for people to refresh skills, people to get to understand what the risk that cybersecurity poses in an organization. So it's a really good way for organizations to also determine if you've got people in your organization that actually have an aptitude for cyber. The Capture the Flag is very much geared at, if I'm an expert, the challenges are going to be hard for me and they will get progressively harder. If I'm a non-techie person, I get the learning, I can get through the challenges, but it operates at my pace. So what we're finding is that a lot of organizations are actually looking at that as a way to complement their own internal training and to repeat it in kind of it's a gamified activity. It's kind of based on gamification. So the whole organization can participate, and it has a number of benefits. So I suppose that's probably the biggest one that I'd call out.
Yeah, I think that one of career promotion as well is an interesting one, and having career promotion for the right type of people to track them into the careers, both for adults but for children as well. And I suppose I might just throw it open to Donna and Rosie on that kind of career promotion one as well. Do you think there's any major initiatives that we can do here in Ireland, or ones that are already happening, to attract more people into a career in cybersecurity, whether it's women or whether it's children? Just with Cyber Ireland, we've got funding from Science Foundation Ireland this year to start the Cyber Ireland Schools Academy, which is teaching cybersecurity skills to children in secondary schools, and that'll be kicking off with a Cyber Summer Camp. But is there anything else that you've seen around the country or internationally that we need to be doing?
Maybe if I could just add to that point, Owen, just to kind of emphasise the importance of our summer camp. So as Owen already mentioned, Cyber Ireland obtained funding under the SFI Discover programme to run an initiative. And I guess Cyber Skills and Cyber Ireland are now working together on a very ambitious education and public outreach programme. And we're looking at how we can educate, I suppose, private citizens and people of all ages on the issues of cybersecurity, online safety and prevention of cybercrime. And we're doing this really to work towards a Measure 12 in our cybersecurity strategy that basically states that as a government, we will continue to ensure that second and third level training in computer science and cybersecurity is developed and deployed. And in alignment with Measure 12 in our National Cybersecurity Programme, we're going to be launching and advertising for students to participate in the Rubber Ducky Summer School, which is basically aimed at 4th and 5th year students that would run over 1 week, and depending on demand, we may run it over 2 weeks. And it's called the Rubber Ducky Summer School because this is a USB device where you can inject keystrokes into a system. You can hack a real system, you can steal victims' data and inject payloads into a victim's computer. And we're hoping to buy these rubber duckies and send them out to the students and to support a week-long training program. And we're not going to be doing lightweight training with these students. We're going to teach them real skills in computer science and cybersecurity. Linux, command line, we're going to teach them networking fundamentals, cryptography, we're going to do web apps with SQL injection, authentication and network scanning. And at the end of this week, the students will have a real nice taster on computer science and cybersecurity. And this actually is developed in collaboration with Virginia Tech in the US, who have been doing this type of training and I suppose education and outreach at this type of student market for about 10 years now. So we're leveraging international best practice with a hope of making a significant impact here in Ireland.
That's super, Donna. And just coming to you, Rosie, as well, there's a couple of questions and comments coming in around women working in cybersecurity roles. And somebody actually mentioned that report that we looked at, the 24% figure of women working in cybersecurity, that's actually the cybersecurity sector in general, and that the number is probably much lower. It could be around 9%. And somebody else made a point that a lot of roles that women seem to be in cybersecurity seem to be maybe around marketing or HR. And we have Fiona Murphy then from Sun Life, who had said that the mentorship program that CWI ran previously looked at potential roles for women around cyber psychology and cyber policy as well, that they were more interested in those types of roles. I suppose in general, is there any other challenges that we can see there that we need to be addressing around the types of roles that women are in cybersecurity?
I suppose the cyber field is very broad ranging, and it's not just the very technical, malware engineer type, down in the weeds. SOC, there's lots challenging behaviors, there's psychology, why are people clicking on links? Why do people trust these phishing emails when they'd never go away to credentials? So there's a diversity of roles within the cyber field that can suit, possibly females have, some females may lean towards some of that side. But I think it's also important though that we don't assume that, and we don't assume that females are in the risk and compliance and the data protection side of cybersecurity. And I think it's really important to encourage, females also into the technical areas, and to make sure that we're breaking down the barriers of entry into the technical fields. And I suppose it's like the GAA program, if you can't see it, you can't be it. 2020, we need to see females being represented also in the hard topics as well as the softer topics. That's what I feel. And I suppose that's part of the panel pledge. And that diversity toolkit under the Cyber Women Ireland, that it's not just a female isn't just there, they're not to talk about something else, that they're there to talk about the hard topics as well, and let that be seen, to encourage that, so to create them role models.
That's great, thanks Rosie. We've a couple of questions actually coming in around the FIT Cybersecurity Apprenticeship Programme, and I see there Adele Hesnan's in the attendees as well, and she said that FIT Skills Audit is going to be published later this year. If Adele, if you're there, you might come on and just give us kind of a brief overview of what you're seeing with regards to the uptake of the Cybersecurity Apprenticeship Programme briefly.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for this morning. It's been really, really interesting and useful to hear from all of you guys. So FIT, we started in 2019 with our cyber apprenticeship program. Really, I guess we conducted a number of skills audits. I think from 2014 was the first one we launched with IBM and ICT Ireland. And I guess that informed us what type of apprenticeship programs we should roll out. What we did is we did interviews, we did face-to-face interviews with a number of industry experts, and that ranged from SMEs to multinationals to government agencies. And we talked to them about what they would consider to be somebody at an entry, a competent or an expert level. And it's very funny, when we started out this conversation back in 2014, most organizations came back to us and said, well, we expect experts. We want an expert. But what is an expert? When we then kind of delved into it, we were saying, would you consider somebody who had CompTIA A+? Yeah, we would actually, we would take them on. Would you consider somebody with Security Plus? Absolutely, yeah. Would you consider somebody with Pen Test? Absolutely, we'd love them. So all of those vendor certifications we have put into our cyber apprenticeship program, which we've run 4 of them at this stage, own 1 in Cork and the remainder in Dublin and Kildare. And they've been hugely successful and sponsored by some amazing companies, again, SMEs, multinationals, and a lot in the finance area. Interesting, when I looked at it, I guess the cyber intakes we have are 15% of our overall apprenticeship population. We'd like to run more and more cyber apprenticeship programs. We have 9 females, would you believe, on the program, and 35 males, and that's the breakdown we have. And from a FIT perspective, we have about 24% of females across the board are represented on our apprenticeship programs. We want to get to 50%. We want to keep engaging females and to keep promoting the programs. And I guess something that we've done, and Rosie, it's something I'd love to connect with you on, and hopefully we can after this. What we started last year, we've noticed that, I guess, the uptake of females isn't as strong as you would, for males in this area and in the tech area. What we decided to do last year was to run a female-only program in software development. So it's something that I was particularly passionate about, really wanted to do it. And we rolled out the programme in Liberties College in Dublin with 15 amazing females who started on the journey of becoming a software developer with really little or no knowledge of any of this. Now, somebody mentioned earlier on about aptitude assessments. For every apprenticeship programme, you have to come through the recruitment process with FIT, and it is an aptitude assessment, it is the SHL, occupational psychology assessments. You have to sit an interview and so on to get on the panel for the apprenticeship programme. But that we have 15 amazing females who remain on that programme and are just 14 months in, and it's amazing to see where they've got at this point. We also started another female iteration in December in Whitehall College in Dublin, and maybe there's a possibility of doing or running, I don't know, a female only cybersecurity program where we can promote that and see is that a way to, I guess, increase the numbers in the area.
That's great. Thanks very much for that, Adele. So we've just run over our time. There was a huge amount of questions coming in, so apologies that we didn't get around to all of them. There will be an opportunity if you do have any comments, feedback or suggestions for this report. Once you leave the webinar, you'll be able to give us some feedback there that we will go through as well. I suppose I just want to wrap up with a final question to all three panelists. Quick fire round, one sentence. I hope you're ready. You haven't prepared for this. What's the most important thing that we need to do in Ireland to address the cybersecurity skills shortage and make Ireland a global player for cybersecurity? Carmel?
Start young. I think we need to be doing more in secondary schools.
Yeah.
Donna?
I think companies need to take ownership of this as well and proactively engage with the providers and tell them what they need. This isn't just academic institutions' responsibility, this is industry's responsibility, and I just want to invite them to engage meaningfully and tell us what they need.
Great. Rosie?
I'm going to say for organisations to sign up to the cyber event pledge and start getting that visibility for females out there and encourage diversity.
That's great. Three interesting and diverse answers. So thank you very much for joining us today. As I said, we'd like to get your feedback afterwards if you have any other comments. I think now that we have this benchmark, we're looking forward to working with all the skills organisations in this space. And as all the panelists said, it's only by working together really that we're going to effectively address these skills challenges at the national level. So thanks very much to our panel here today, Carmel, Donna and Rosie, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Owen.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.